Welcome to episode 39 of the Fifth Maple Board Game Podcast. We're a group of diverse friends who offer our takes on the latest and greatest board games to hit our table. I'm your host, Daniela, the goofy noob, and I'm joined today by the collector.
Hey, this is David.
And the intellectual introvert.
Hi, everyone. This is Chris.
And the deluxeifier.
Hello, Pete's here.
Today, we're snipping wires and leaving the Shire as we form our little fellowship and take on a pair of short co-op contenders. We'll start in a pretty precarious position, finding fuses and escaping explosions, hopefully, before C4 makes us no more in Bomb Busters. Then, probably right after that second breakfast, we'll celebrate our 111th birthday with the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game. And finally, because we just can't help ourselves, we'll head off to Mordor and see which one gets tossed into the cracks of Mount Doom after we face them off against each other in our ultimate showdown, the Battle of the Funnest. But before we get started with this precious decision, David, what are we looking at today with our buy, borrow, burn?
Yeah, so buy, borrow, burn today. We are going to go back to the classics. I actually looked online to see the top-selling board games of all time. And Monopoly will be one of the games today. It sold 275 million copies. Number 2 up on the board is Scrabble at 150 million copies. And in the 5th place position was Clue with 150 million copies sold. The first one was chess. The second one was checkers. So we're not doing those ones. We're doing the next 3 on the list. So Monopoly, Scrabble, and Clue are your options today. Who wants to take it away?
I'll start on this one. So I'm going to buy Clue. Love deduction. No surprise there. I'm going to borrow Scrabble because my mom loves Scrabble and I allow her to cream me in it, not because I allow her, actually because she's incredible at it. So shout out to mom. And I'm burning Monopoly all day long. Too long, annoying. No good memories from growing up with that game. Chris.
So I love word games. I think you guys all know that. Scrabble is the buy for me. I'll play that anytime. Definitely a classic for me, and I enjoy it every time I play it. Even if we're not even keeping score, just, hey, let's take the time and try to put words together. I will actually borrow Monopoly. I have a lot of good memories, unlike Daniela, apparently, of playing Monopoly against my brother. I would lose all the time. But we just made a gig of it. So I just beg him for money, and he just decided how long he wanted to play. That would determine how often he gave me money, and eventually he'd cut me off, and the game would be over. But that's just a nice memory for me. And I was always a dog because I love little dogs. And I'll burn Clue. I wouldn't burn if I didn't have to. But at the same time, while I used to really like this game, I don't know, something about it's like, oh, okay, but something doesn't work for me anymore on that, and I just have no desire to play that anymore. Even when someone asked me to play it, and I used to love it, I guess I'd rather burn it so that they don't have that option.
All right, well, I'm going to take some heat here because the one that I'm going to buy is Monopoly. Like you, Chris, I have a lot of good memories of playing Monopoly with my brothers and sisters, and I actually won a car, actual legitimate car, playing Monopoly.
What?
Yeah, I did. My brother-in-law, he wanted to play so bad. He kept me up all night. He says, if you beat me, I'll buy you a car. So it was a cheap car.
Wait,
but
bring it around.
Yeah. Neil, if you're listening, you know who I'm talking about. But Monopoly, I do enjoy the game. And I think, as far as classics go, it's one you're going to have around. As far as borrowing Clue, I do enjoy a good mystery. This is another game that I played a lot with my sister when I was little. Again, good fond memories. Scrabble, we can burn that one for me. I am no good with words. I struggle spelling. I'm a horrible speller. Thank God for spell check. So when it comes to burning it and they're wooden chips, so they should burn. We're pretty good long. So, all right, David.
Oh, yeah. So for me, I am actually going to buy Clue on this one. I like to play Clue, but I like to not use any paper or anything. I like to freak people out by just memorizing everything and trying to win that game. The one I'm going to borrow is Monopoly. I've lost too many friends playing Monopoly over the years, so even though I enjoy the game, I like to mess with people in that game too. Because I go to church, I normally tithe, so when I've always passed go on that 200, I always tithe $20 in the middle, and it messes people up. So I like playing with people's minds on that one. But Scrabble, being Chinese, Scrabble is, an English game. I have trouble spelling sometimes. And I think we actually used a lot of the Scrabble pieces when I got married as centerpieces. So to me, it's really burned anyway. So I'm okay with that. So that's kind of where I fall in these 3 games.
Does the Chinese version of Scrabble have like 4 billion tiles or something like that? What does that even look like?
I don't know. I wouldn't play it anyways. I don't like spelling.
All right, thanks, David. So those are our opinions on our buy, borrow, burn this time. We'd love to know what you guys all thought of this episode as we did those with Monopoly, Scrabble, and Clue. Let us know by sending us an email at thefifthmeeple@gmail.com. Follow us on social media or in our BGG Guild, or check us out on our website at thefifthmeeple.com. In addition to subscribing to our show, one of the best ways to help us grow is to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you may be listening. And if you do so, we might just read it on a future episode. In fact, today we recently heard from one of our listeners when they left a review for us. So, David, what did this person have to say?
Yeah, so Rubik's Wrist wrote to us, and the title of it is Never Again Was Hilarious. And for those you don't know, he was referencing episode number 34 that we had just put out about Never Again, our bottom 3 board games of all time. And this one says, I laughed a lot listening to the group's horror stories. My biggest disappointments are the Firefly game, too long and almost no player interaction, and the War of the Ring. By the time I learned how to set up the board, all I wanted to do was put it away. And I've been there, my friend, on those ones. So, if you have a bottom board game, if you haven't even listened to the episode's really great. I might say so myself, but we got a lot of hate out that day, and it was a good time.
We had a lot of fun doing that episode. I'm glad to hear that people have fun listening to it, because I really enjoyed doing that episode. I look forward to our next one. And by all means, thanks for writing in and letting us know.
Yeah, for sure. That was one of the ones I think we laughed through, and then listening to it again, it cracked me up.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, guys, I think I hear some ticking, so let's get into our discussion of Bomb Busters.
Bomb Busters is a 2 to 5 player cooperative deduction game that places you in the role of a bomb disposal expert, working with your teammates to defuse a bomb before your entire world is literally shattered. The base game consists of 66 missions, including 8 training missions. While each mission is different, they all center around the same set of mechanisms. A mission starts with each player blindly drawing evenly from a set of wire tiles until they're all chosen. There are 4 tiles for each number between 1 and 12 representing blue wires, and each scenario also specifies a number of yellow and red wires to add, which are decimal numbers, for example, 10.5. Players then arrange their tiles from lowest to highest in a tile stand with the numbers only visible to them. Each player then uses a token to indicate the number of one of their tiles to give their teammates a small amount of starting information. 5 equipment cards from a deck numbered 1 through 12 are also randomly drawn. These cards, which must be unlocked during the game, provide a one-time benefit to help the players. On your turn, you must point to one of the tiles in a teammate's rack and announce what value you think it is. In order to do this, you must have a tile of the same number in your rack. If you're correct, both tiles are revealed in front of the racks, giving the team additional information to deduce from. If you're wrong and it's a different number, that player identifies the number using a token for later reference, but the bomb takes one step closer to exploding. If you ever have all of the remaining blue wires of a particular number, you can also reveal them all as your turn instead of guessing at someone else's wire. If you ever point to and choose a red wire without using a power to protect you, or if you guess incorrectly too many times, let's just say I hope you had a blast playing. If, however, you manage to identify and reveal every wire in everyone's rack, you defuse the bomb and live to play another day. Bomb Busters was designed by Hisashi Hayashi and was first published in 2024 by Cocktail Games.
All right, so a newer game out and linked. Bomb Busters, we've played this multiple times sitting around the table. Just going into it, some of the things that we are going to talk about and the things that we like out here. I'm just going to, again, start off here just to keep the conversation going. But this is such a unique game with deduction. I really liked working as a team on this game, although some people could say this is one of their dislikes, some of these types of like co-op-y type games. But, being allowed to talk minimally with each other and trying to figure out, I should say we probably didn't do that the best though, but trying to figure out what all those were. There's very unique set of ways you can point to people, talk to people, interact with people in this game. It was amazing. I didn't realize when we first started playing that there was trials in the game, and then you actually go on missions. Yeah. And so incredibly enough, once we started to actually get into the meat of the game, it ended up opening up a whole new thing that I was like really jazzed and excited for while playing it.
Yeah, when we first started playing this game, I said to myself, "There's no way this is ever going to work. It's too hard to deduce this. There's not enough information there." And then we get into it, and the game gives you. I think it does a really good job of giving you just enough information to get you going, and then it gives you the little tools so that when you get in a bind, you can try to use them to get out. And I thought it was really, really well balanced and well done from that standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised how well it did play, because we play a lot of games at work where, you know, we're trying to do hidden roles and trying to figure out things like that. And this was one that just made sense when you're, you know, picking numbers and trying to match it up, and kind of thematic too. You know, you're snipping those wires. You don't want to snip the wrong one. And I will say, when I was playing it, I was pretty apprehensive. I felt like I did not want to be the one making the wrong mistake and cutting the wrong wire. So, you know, for me, it kind of really, the theme really came through for me on this game.
And even though you were apprehensive, which did come true, when it came time to it, you had no qualms about just pointing and we're sitting there screaming, wait. There's some other things you can figure out. You're like, just 3, and then go for it.
I agree with Pete. I think the tension is definitely, when you play with 5 players, you know, I think it's a great co-op actually at 5 players, but you know, when you're playing, you don't want to be that person that just kills you automatically. I mean, that red one feels really bad, and you don't want to be that kind of person. It's kind of like, yeah. But you know, for me, this game, you know, it plays really good. I do feel like I am snipping wires. I feel the tension in this game. I do like that there's a variable powers up on top, so you could be a little strategic, because in order to unlock one of those equipment cards, let's say it's a 3 that flips up on the board, you actually have to reveal a 3. You have to cut the 3 wire, at least one of them, on, you know, to actually have the power be usable. So I do like that. There's some strategy on maybe, you know, do we point at all the wires that are up there so we can unlock our special powers, and, you know, or do we not? And we kind of try to tell each other more information about our boards, you know, by using, you know, the hint token that we get to start the game. So, you know, you could go either way on that, but I like that there's a choice there. And it's actually, I think, a decent choice of what you're telling people to start the game.
And you guys have mentioned the theme several times. I agree 100%. There was one scenario in particular we played where it was timed, and that just jacked it up even more.
Oh yeah,
so every time you point at one and you're not quite sure, there's a little bit there. But when that timer was going and we knew it was ticking away, that was intense. I finished that game and I said that exact thing to myself. Wow, that was really intense.
But the great thing about that was what they allowed you to do was there was no turn. You're not working around in a sequential order, like going around and around and handing it to the person next to you. Anybody can guess, and you have to say, what did we have to do?
Snip.
We have to say
a snip.
Yeah, snip, and then you would point and say what you wanted to say. That was really unique. And I remember when we started, I think, Chris, you said, okay, we have to do this in, was it 10 minutes? 15 minutes. And none of us have won a game yet in under 20 or something like that. Exactly. So we were under pressure, definitely, as a group, trying to get that one done.
I will say, when I was driving home that night, Dave was riding with me and he was talking about it. And he was really jazzed up about it, especially that part. He said, I love that 15-minute timer, and just being able to go out of order just twisted the game where, you know, when you're going around, you're planning and maybe doing a little bit more strategic. In this one, it's like, you know what, it's ticking. We got to get this thing done. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't take a turn twice in a row. So you also had to keep that in mind too. But I remember that conversation with Dave. He really enjoyed that part of that game.
Yeah. And I'm actually right now, I think if I had to do Cardboard Crushes all over again, I would really talk about games that have chapters in them. I am really, really enjoying games that are changing as you're playing the same style and mechanics. So that's another like for me on this game.
Yeah, I mean, there's 66 missions in this game. I know we only played through a handful of them, but there's a lot of boxes in this game to change up this game. So, yeah, I'm excited about exploring, you know, what's in this game too, because I think I'm only up to mission 20 or something. So,
do they all get harder, or is it just different mechanisms? I've heard people say that they're not necessarily always increasing, but it's just, hey, this the different mechanisms you may like, you may not like, and it's just different flavors, all on the same base mechanism.
Yeah. I would agree. It gives you like different flavors, kind of like you guys played with the time one. You know, there's other mechanics in there. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but there are other things that happen as well. That's a lot of fun.
All right. So what are some of the things maybe that we played that you're like, I don't know if that really works as well. I mean, for me, there's nothing really that I dislike about this game outright. I just think if you're, someone who doesn't want to play this type of like deduction game or in this co-op-y type thing, I don't think you're going to have fun. I think you just got to play this game with the right people, and it can be a great little 20-minute game.
Yeah, I'll add, I kind of alluded to it before, is sometimes these games where you're doing deduction, when everybody else at the table knows what's going on and you just don't see it, you can really feel stupid at times. I know I do. I'm looking around. I'm like, well, which one do I pick? And everybody's like looking at me like, it's obvious, isn't it? Without saying that. So that's the only thing I think if you're playing this game to keep in mind. And the other thing too is when we were learning it, I know I made some mistakes. You get all your tiles and you put them in order, and all of a sudden it's like, you know what? I have 80% of my tiles are above 7. I need to let you guys know that somehow. So I put a tile out or something like that to try to give you guys some clues. And I think the one time I went to grab a yellow tile or something, and Chris is like, no, you can't do that on the first turn. So pay attention to the rules on that. Yeah, just because what you can and can't do. Because in a game of hidden information, anytime you leak that information out can kind of skew the game a little bit for you.
And that happened a lot when we were playing, even not necessarily on purpose, but you have two of the same number in your hand and you're deciding which one you're going to show when you picked it. And you take any time whatsoever deciding which one you're going to show. You're letting everybody else know that you have another one, and you're not supposed to know that. And that happened. Those types of things happen a lot in this game.
Yeah, I know there was one game where I was playing and you guys were all trying to figure out which of my things were, and I was trying to stay as stony face as I could because I didn't want to look, even glance one way or the other at one person or another, and give anything away. So, again, know your audience that you're playing with in a game like this, and just make sure that those expectations are set. The first few games when you're playing it, do it a little loose, but as you say, you start getting into some of these scenarios and it ramps up pretty quick. So you want to know what those rules are.
At the same time, when we're talking about, okay, you got to be careful not to give away information, the rules also tell you, but you can only share so much, even not just about your rack, but I figured something out about David's rack, but I can't tell you that. And that part seemed a little non-thematic to me, that, okay, we're sitting here trying not to blow up, and I can't tell you that I know that's a 12 over there.
Right?
And that's just, well, then it's not a co-op game. It's we're playing towards the same end, but that doesn't sound very co-op-y to me.
Right. And that's kind of where I was saying, this game in that particular situation can make you feel, me in particular, a little stupid if I don't catch that, or I don't understand it, or maybe trying to figure out, well, this could be this or that, and it's easy to miss a tile, or thinking one space over and just miss it. That's my thoughts on it.
Most of the episodes in this, when I time them out, they're around 20 minutes. I played mostly with 4 or 5 players on this game. And I want to say, though, that sometimes AP can become a thing in this game because somebody doesn't want to make a mistake. And I think that it's important to let, especially new players, know, a lot of times if you do make a mistake, we're still going to get information off of that, because sometimes you need that information in order to win the game, but nobody necessarily wants to guess wrong. And so they'll take a long time to think about something. And I think that it's just one thing where, you have to let people know, hey, you're going to point to the wrong thing sometimes, and that's okay. Because we'll get the information, about what tile that actually was. They'll have to identify it. As long as it's not the red one, we won't make fun of you too much. But, there's good deduction there. But the thing that kind of, as I've been playing this game more, I think some of the components, I know they probably didn't know kind of a sleeper hit that this was going to become. But the components, especially the board where you put your tiles in, has a lot. I feel like there's a lot to be desired there. It's fiddly, even in the best of times, even trying to get red tiles out or yellow tiles out, you have to mix them back up, and then you have to throw them back into another thing, and we all mix them up so we don't know which one's the red one or the yellow one. And just that proponent of every time kind of doing it, I don't know I feel like the game needs bags or something, but there's no bags given, so we're always just kind of makeshifting something over there. But I feel like this game is missing a couple bags that you could just draw stuff out of real quickly, that doesn't come with the game, and maybe they'll make some improvements. But I think there's a lot you could deluxeify here. But I'll leave that to Pete maybe later to
the
go
tile
over.
racks are like the cheapest, thinnest plastic ever known to man as well. So
I actually, to that point, David, though, I read somebody, a girl said that she made a red bag and a yellow bag or something, and it bagged all of the pieces and parts because it was easier to pick draw out of them.
Yeah, I feel like that would be way faster to a setup.
All right, David, why don't you take us over to the collector's corner on this one?
Yeah, so this game is just fairly new. So right now, this game across the board is around $43.75 is what I was finding on Amazon. It's a weird number, $43.75, but that's what it's going for right there. If you look in used, because the game's so new, I wasn't finding a lot of copies out there. I think I saw one that was going around like $30, $35, but just because it's so new, I don't know if there's a lot of copies yet on the secondary market. If you're in a miniature market at all, they sell board games there. They're going for $32 on that site. So some of the game stores are selling it, about $10 cheaper than Amazon. That's the kind of way I would recommend going with this game because there's just not a lot of used copies yet.
Okay. Pete, what do you think about final thoughts?
Yeah, there's not much really to try to deluxify with this game. As you said, maybe, getting some bags and throwing them in just from an organizational point of view. I enjoyed the game much more than I thought I would when you guys pulled the game out and said, we're going to do this one. I play, like I said, a lot of games at lunchtime. I think this would be a good one that I think my lunch crew would like. I'm just afraid that it's just a little bit too long with as fiddly as it could be, especially with setting it up. If you could set this up in like 5 minutes and play the scenario and put it away, I think this would be a home run for my game crew at lunchtime.
All right. Chris?
Yeah, the only thing I can think of, Pete, we talked about this when we played it. It's not really a deluxification, but I think it is something that can add to the game. I think, Daniela, we talked about it together. Sometimes it's really easy to get confused looking at someone else's rack. Which end is the low end? Which end's the high end? Especially in the heat of the moment, or when you're doing a timed game. And so even just a little sticker that says this is the low end, this is the high end would be helpful to me, so that I don't make a stupid mistake and I'm the one that points to the wrong one. That being said, I did not think I was going to like this game when we brought it out. I ended up enjoying it a lot. I thought about buying it. I thought maybe it's something that my family could get into. Mm-hmm. Decided it probably wouldn't be, but I would play this anytime someone put it on the table. I'd hop in. I do wonder though. We played it at 4 and 5 players. It worked really well at 4 and 5 players. I think when you get to like 2 players, each person has 2 racks, but you treat them independently. I don't know if you played it that way, David.
So when you play with 3 players, 2 players have 1 rack each, and then 1 person has 2 racks, and they control them separately, but yet together. So they have more information. That normally is the captain. So it does play a little bit differently.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. It seemed like that it would definitely play different. I'm not sure it would be as fun for me, but I've never played it that way, so I don't know.
There's a lot more what they call single cuts. I mean, you have a lot higher probability that, they can cut 4 wires just by drawing.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So that being said, at 4 or 5 players, which is all I've ever played it at, I've had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, that's interesting that there's a captain option of that. It'd be a lot of information, I think, to manage. Overall, I think this game, again, is fun. I think, too, a lot of your guys' points are well taken. I would suggest using a circle table for this. It gets a little bit goofy when you're playing on a square table because you have to sit at really odd angles to not see the people's wires to the right or left of you. So that might be just a suggestion, or try to evenly space a table just a little bit differently on this. And I think, Pete, to your point, if new people are playing this game, don't make them feel dumb.
Yeah.
Cut the wires, cut them, let it happen.
Laugh about it.
Yeah, you're going to grow into the game. You're going to understand hopefully a little bit more. Don't make Pete feel stupid. Noted. Yeah, but I think that's an important piece of board games and why people don't come back and play a lot of times, because they feel so stupid. Like I used to feel playing a lot of our what are the trick-taking games? Yeah. I've grown into liking a lot of those. So yeah,
and it's such a quick game. If something goes wrong, then set it back up and go again.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah. All right, guys. I think I see Gandalf coming over that hill, and you know what he always wants to talk about: the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game.
of the Ring trick-taking game is a 1 to 4 player cooperative trick-taking game that takes place over a series of chapters themed around the Lord of the Rings. During each scenario, you'll play the role of one or more characters from the beloved fantasy tale. The starting deck consists of 37 cards and 5 suits. The Hills, Mountains, Forests, and Shadow suits are numbered 1 to 8, while the Ring suit is numbered 1 to 5. The base play within a hand is similar to standard trick-taking games, but despite what you might think, the Rings cards are not trump. The partial exception is the One Ring card, which, when played, can be declared to be either an automatic win or not. Each chapter or scenario defines which characters are available for play, often including some that must be chosen and others that are optional. These characters, which are drafted after receiving your hand of cards, carry with them certain requirements. For example, if you're playing as Bilbo, you need to win 3 or more tricks, but if you're playing as Pippin, you need to win the fewest tricks. After everyone has drafted a character, play begins. And if at the end of the hand all characters have satisfied their goal, the scenario is won and you advance to the next chapter. If not, the Eye of Sauron is upon you and you must try again. Later chapters introduce new characters, new mechanics, and a few additional surprises that I'll leave to you to discover on your own. The Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game was designed by Brian Bornmueller and was first published in 2025 by Office Dog.
All right, guys, it's a new game for this year. 2025 just came out. What are some of these things? We've played this numerous times, gone through tons of chapters together. We are the Fellowship. So what are the things that make us feel like we're in a fellowship?
Without releasing too many things, because there are a lot of things you don't want to spoil, but the reality is every chapter I think that we've played so far has definitely been unique. You don't have to worry about the game feeling the same as you go from one chapter to the next, and as you work through various chapters, you get a different experience, even not only within chapter to chapter, but if you have to replay a chapter, you can be a different person, you have a different challenge in that hand for what your character needs, and so it's fresh every time you play it.
I like how it follows the stories a little bit when you're going through the chapters and you're going.
There's some lore there.
Yeah, it's interesting to, we were talking about some of the characters coming out. Now, where was this character at? So, that kind of conversation outside of the actual play of the game is that lore and that experience that really comes through when I'm playing the game. The trick-taking part of the game can be pretty intense, and, you do need to understand how trick-taking games work if you're going to play this. Mm-hmm. Just don't go into it thinking that it's going to be a cakewalk, because in many games, you're trying not to win all the time, and, you want to maybe throw out cards that somebody else needs. And
that's a great point. You have to know how to manipulate things to get everybody to their goal that they need.
Right. It's not just your goal. As much as I love playing it when I only have to win 2 tricks and I'm giving away all my good cards, but I still need to pay attention to what other people are trying to accomplish, because sometimes I have that one high card that I don't want to play at the wrong time.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about production. I normally don't start with this, but to me, the production on this game, I bought this game, and the box and the quality of the artwork, I think is just so cool. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen Lord of the Rings done in stained glass artwork like these cards are done. I think that it shines. I really like the art style that they took on this game, and then the quality of the components. There's they have these little wooden plugs, but then they have this pog type thing to symbolize when you can play when the ring suit is broken in and not. Even though it's something really simple, they didn't have to put such a high quality piece kind of into the game. And the quality, just to feel it. Also, because I know you guys don't own the game yet, but the box itself, when you put cards in there, they have a ribbon so that you can easily pull the ribbon up and the cards just pop out. And it's just something that, they put a lot of thought into this box. And, I think it should be recognized, because I think the game was packaged really well, and that, you don't always see the high quality production throughout the whole game. I will say the only minor thing is maybe the card quality, but other than that, I think it's very good.
And you sleeved all your cards, right?
I feel like you have to, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Unfortunately on this game, yes.
I think overall, I just think, wow, what a game. From where trick-taking came from for me to where this game is taking me to, I'm violently here for this theme here too. I really enjoy Lord of the Rings and all the lore that goes with it, just as everybody else says, and keep telling Chris it's Tom Babaldi or Bombardier.
Bombadil.
Bombadil. Yeah, so we have had a couple laughs about some of the things too. And just, I think I opened up my Spotify at 1.2 and it was just playing like the Lord of the Rings like soundtrack. It's just, I don't know, it's just very unique. It's got incredible gameplay, very unique challenges, hard challenges. I think this is a step up from some of the other trick-taking games that we've played. And I'm just, again, I'm here for this. This is my new precious.
The one thing I want to add is the games can go very quick because you play the scenario, and the scenario, may only take you 3, maybe 8 minutes. We could be done. If we do poorly, it's going to go faster than that. But that's one of the things. I mean, I remember I was struggling trying to keep up recording our entries
Games,
because
yeah.
I was trying, we were trying to see what chapter it is. So I was trying to put that in there, and I didn't even get the chance to, figure out who was playing what characters. Because I do that in some of the games when we play, because sometimes you find out some characters are better than other. But since this is such a co-op game, I don't know that it really matters too much on tracking all of that information. I think, just tracking which scenarios that we did is really good. And I think, the characters that come out, it's interesting because they do keep adding them in. I haven't played as many as you guys have. I think there's some interesting story to be had if you're going to, go through the whole story from start to finish. I think it could be an epic, evening or even, weekend game that you can play over the weekend or in between other games. You can get it and play a couple hands and then be done.
Yeah, for me also something as simple as the rings not being Trump to me is actually pretty cool. They're different, they're special, they're important, but they don't automatically win unless, of course, it's the one ring. And even then, you can decide if you win that or not. I think that's a really cool twist. They're special, but they're not all powerful. There's just that one ring to rule them all. But other than that, to me, that in itself is, at least for me, cool.
Yeah, I think some of the greatest moments playing the game too is when David would look over and be like, "Oh, why would you play that?" And then I would put out the thing I needed to, and I saved the game. And those are really good feel-good moments for me.
I mean, this game plays 1 to 4 players. I've had an opportunity to play it at the 1-player count, the 2-player count, and 3 and 4. I will say, to me personally, this game plays well at every player count. When I play by myself, it's a great puzzle. You play open-handed, but there's a lot of cool stuff that's going on. When you play 2 players, it switches up the mode, and you actually have this like pyramid type thing that you're playing with the other person. And it's kind of fun. So it's like, it's not necessarily just a straight up, blind draw, but you're discovering and turning over cards to unlock other cards so that you can play as a third person. And then 3 or 4, I've had a good time with it as well. So, if you're looking for a game and you're like, how can you play a trick-taking game at 1 player? You can, and you could also play it at 4, and every mode that they have is really good. And I also think the rule book here is really well done because every scenario in the rule book, every chapter that's in this game has like a hint sheet, not even a hint sheet, but like FAQ, I want to call it, so that, and it'll tell you too, like if you're playing solo mode on this scenario, this is how you set up, or this is how you can interpret this rule. Nice. So they did a really good job, I feel like, really thinking through questions that people might have. And then when I turn to there, I always find the answer probably 9 times out of 10. It's right there. It tells
me it was actually play tested thoroughly enough to understand what questions those might be.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. So
the one little thing I'm going to add, and this tripped me up the first time playing it, was there's the different types of cards, hills, mountains, and the one hill card, for whatever reason, I don't know their decision on this one, on the side under the number is a shield. Why would you do that? It just messed me up because I was actually thinking that this wasn't a mountain or a hill card, and it was.
Yeah, I did that.
And that threw me up a little bit. That's kind of a real little nitpick, but that's just one thing that I would say. Look at the bottom of the card for the name. They do have it there, so.
Well, while you're on cards, Pete, and while we're transitioning to negatives here, I've got a beef with the cards as well. I don't understand why some games do it, and this one did. With everything else they did right, when you only put the number on one side of the card to where the card can be upside down in my hand and I can't see the number, and now I have to arrange every card a certain way. I don't understand why I did it. It's so easy not to do that. And then it's just an irritation. Every time I put my hand together, it's just that much more difficult to get things arranged. Just a small beef. It doesn't take that much time, but man, that irritates me because it's so easy to avoid. Why do games do that? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
And then David, I guess just to also piggyback on one of your positives, I will say though that that it does have some good FAQs for each chapter, but I still think there's also some holes that break certain chapters, and I won't go into details again for spoiler's sake, but in chapter 6, there was one example we had no idea what to do when the One Ring was in no one's hand at the start, and there was nothing. There was nothing anywhere that we could find. I even searched it on the internet, couldn't find anything. So we just reshuffle and restart because I have no idea what to do here, and you can't play it without it.
Interesting. I mean, I think playing this game too, like if you're looking for a game that you can just kind of pull out and play a chapter, I think you can play that way. I don't think I would recommend playing that way. I think this is a game that you can take and play multiple rounds, and you should play multiple rounds to kind of stay in the theme, stay in the game, stay working towards completing the chapters as you go along. So some people may not like that in this game, but I think if you're playing it, you're going to want to play a number of rounds sitting there.
I mean, lastly, I just think that the evolution of characters that come out, not every character, you can play, but the options that they give players, you have to play some of them, you don't have to play other ones, but here's your pool, and the pool keeps growing. To me, I think they took what the crew was, and I feel like this is the next step kind of in that trick-taking realm. I know that's a lot to say because I love the crew. I think that they set a huge foundation, but I was wondering, what's the next game that's going to jump, kind of that trick-taking co-op? And I feel that this is probably the one that I would say might take that mantle and kind of run with it, kind of revamp some stuff, and push what the crew started in the trick-taking realm and kind of take it to that next level with a co-op. So
well, and I think to that point, David, I was reading again some reviews, and they were saying that they think that this is a cheap version of the crew, and I totally disagree with those too. And I just think that one of my likes is that it takes on another thing. I don't think it diminishes the crew in any way, because it's the Mission Deep Sea was very fun for me to play. I think it just does something totally different, and it's very unique.
So I agree with you both, but I'll play devil's advocate again. To me, though, it could be, I'll say, annoying a little bit. Every hand I had to figure out, okay, so what you're trying to do? You're trying to get one trick. You got to get 3, and like 3 times, 4 times every hand I'm asking everybody, what is it we're trying to do for you? And especially because if we have to replay a scenario, everybody's doing different things now, and I go, who am I trying to? That can be. I shouldn't be spending my time trying to remember what is it. I should be spending my time trying to help you achieve your goal, but now I got to somehow keep track of what that goal is. And then to your point of, hey, sometimes you get 4 players, there's 6 people to choose from. If you do have to replay a goal, now you got to go back, well, which ones did we have to use and which ones did we not? And so there's a little bit of finicky things. And again, they're nitpicks, but they're just things that to me do take away a little bit from the experience of just playing the trick-taking game.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of trading in this game, too. I don't think we mentioned it yet, but there's a lot of, you're not just locked into the hand you're dealt. Sometimes you take a character so you could trade with another character because you need to get a card out of your hand and maybe into somebody else's hand. So I like that, it takes a little bit longer to get to the actual trick taking, but I do like that there's some agency at the start of the game. Some characters can interact with each other and trade different cards around the table, and I think that feels good most times.
Yeah, I think it's unique to every new chapter. You could be potentially somebody new. So while that, we could potentially say that those are nits that you have to kind of constantly wonder. I just wonder if people need to speak up a little bit more and constantly remind, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. Remember, I got to get this. I got to get this. Because it's not like a game you don't need to be talking in. So, All right, David, this is a new game for 2025. Take us to the collector's corner.
Okay, so right now you can buy this game on Amazon for $24.99. It is in stock. I just checked because it was going in and out. But you can buy it there. Right now, across the board, for the most part, this game is $24.99 at most game stores. The only difference of buying it maybe at your local board game store versus somebody else is that there's an expansion, like a little mini expansion pack that comes with it that they gave as a promo to some of the game stores to entice people to buy local. And so if you can get that, I feel like you should do it because a lot of the game stores are doing the same price as Amazon, but a lot of them have a promo deck, a little promo deck that they can slide in there. It's a couple other missions, I think, that are in that deck. So, yeah, I would support local if you can.
So I'm jumping online now because I looked the other day. I was going to go out and buy this, and it was 30-something. And I was like, I'm not doing that.
Is it in your basket right now? Are you buying
Well,
it?
I'm looking at it right now, and I'm looking at the add to cart button because I like the idea that I can play this by myself and play a trick-taking game literally solo. And so I went on there, but I'm glad to hear that. I may have to go out and buy that now.
Well, let's finish the episode.
No,
Pete, what do you
I got to do this now.
Pete, what do you got for deluxifying this? I think David touched on a lot of good points as far as the quality.
Yeah, the one thing that I had written down and that David kind of beat me to the punch was the card quality. I think could be a little bit better. So just make sure you go out and buy sleeves for the game because they do get mixed up. You are shuffling quite a bit, and especially in games like this where you're playing certain cards more than others. The Frodo card is going to really get worn more and shuffled in than maybe some other cards are. So that's just my one suggestion on it. Chris?
Yeah,
did you buy it?
I didn't buy it yet,
Okay.
but again, I just keep staring at that button and trying to be responsible.
Sweating.
But I am a little bit. I like this game. I enjoy playing it whenever we've brought it out. I like the theme. I'm not a super junkie of the theme, but I do like it. I like things in the fantasy realm. So this speaks to me there, but it's also just fun to play. And one last little thing, because again, this kind of tickled me when it came out. Maybe a mini spoiler alert, but at some point you will encounter a character that is a horse, and that horse has to win one trick.
Yeah.
Right. And Danielle just says, I'm like, that's a one trick pony.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that's what they were going for. And I just thought that was a great pun to work in there. That was almost enough to get me to buy it just by itself.
All right. Well, let's get tattoo here off of Fantasy Island. I think the great part of this game overall, I would not recommend this for new people playing trick-taking games. You're going to have to start with a Cat in the Box or something down the ways a little bit. But if you are developing your trick-taking abilities in games and you enjoy that, this is going to be real fun when you can get to it. Well, Hobbitses, I think I just saw the Eye of Sauron, so it's probably a good time to head over to today's Battle of the Five Armies. Battle of the Funnest.
All right, everyone, the moment of truth has arrived. It's time to separate the men from the boys and the games from the toys. We're pitting these games head-to-head against each other in the ultimate face-off. In one corner, weighing in at 1.98 out of 5, with an overall BGG rating of 7.9. A mellow fellow turned on by red and yellow, a thick chick with a tick that packs quite a kick, a hot-blooded stud that's never a dud. It's big news when he blows his fuse, Bomb Busters. In the other corner, weighing in at 2.09 out of 5, with an overall BGG rating of 8.1. Scary enough to shake a wizard's gizzard, spreading ire and hellfire throughout the Shire, the droll troll that'll suck out your soul, the divine dwarf, the elite elf, the one game to rule them all, the Fellowship of the Ring, trick-taking game. And now, let's see which game pulls off a co-op coup in our Battle of the Funnest Showdown. All right, guys, you remember how this works? We're evaluating these games head-to-head in 5 different categories: theme and production, mechanisms, value for your time, replayability, and the fun factor. The game that gets the most votes wins the category, and the game that wins the most categories takes the prize in our Battle of the Funnest. So let's start this ticking with theme and production. David.
I wish you wouldn't pick me first, Chris, on this one. I'm still struggling to find a winner here. I think they're both really well done. I think the one thing I will have to say, the negative that I'm going to decide this on, I think the theme and production come through on both of these. I feel like I'm a bomb expert. I can snip things, or I'm exploding, and I do feel like I'm traveling on this journey of Middle Earth. So the one thing I will say, because I think they're equally thematic, is the production. And I think the production on the trays for Bomb Busters is what's going to bring me down on them. So I'm going to have to go with the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game on this one, just for that very reason. I don't like those trays. They just feel too cheap, and you can smash them pretty easily. Kicking this one over next to Daniela.
Yeah, I think for everything that David just said, I was just thinking both the themes are great here. I think that, to David's point, I actually like for the theme and production, the stained glass visual and some of the metallics on this is just really, really beautifully done. They did upgrade a little bit of the components and make, again, that pog in the ring, nice quality. We've talked already about the quality of the cards, maybe just sleeving those, but I think there's some things in Bomb Busters that needs to be a little bit more done to not make the little pieces so finicky. David. Pete.
The anxiety I get playing Bomb Busters just it's really what sways me this way. I'm just going to go Bomb Busters. The pressure, it just does it for me. I do appreciate the theme in Lord of the Rings, but I never really followed those books too much. I have listened to them. I enjoy them, but it doesn't draw me as much as this thing getting ready to blow up in my face. So I'm going to go over to Chris.
All right, I'm just going to say it. I don't feel the theme in the Fellowship of the Rings. We read the little chapter summary at the beginning. I'm not sure how it ties in. I'm sure it does, but I think you got to stretch to do that. The production to me is better in Fellowship of the Rings, but the theme is just so overpowering for me in Bomb Busters. You're feeling stressed. You feel like, I don't want to be the one to snip that wire. If I do, it's all over. I'm going with Bomb Busters, which means right off the bat, we have a 2-2 tie in theme and production. We'll go to our fifth meeple, Dave, who also sends us his picks, and we'll figure out how we break the tie here.
Boom, there it is. He says he votes for Bomb Busters. Having all the wire tiles out on everybody's tray really puts you in the game. You can feel the pressure of trying not to prick the wrong tile. Well done, Dave.
All right, so Bomb Busters by tiebreaker takes theme and production. Maybe a surprise start here as we get into it. We'll go to mechanisms, and I will kick it over to Daniela.
All right, so for mechanisms, I am going to go with Bomb Busters because in the grand scheme of things, while I both enjoy these games again, I think Bomb Busters with this deduction and this interaction and how we have to deduce the cutting of the wires comes through a little bit more for me. Just this, again, just personal. I'm sure I'm going to get outvoted on this. Dave.
Oh, another tough decision. I actually had a really hard time with these two games. I enjoy them very much, both. But for mechanisms, for me, I'm just going to go with Lord of the Rings trick-taking game, or the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game. Just for the sole fact that I think that they did a lot of things to try to give players agency on how they approach this game on each chapter. And I like seeing kind of some of the innovative ways where I feel like they did that, where I feel like in some other co-op kind of trick-taking games, I'm more locked in. And so for those reasons, I'm going to give it, but I do really enjoy the theme of Bomb Busters. I mean, not the theme, the mechanic. Kicking it over to Pete.
Yeah, the training missions were kind of an intro for Bomb Busters. I really didn't realize how much more they elevated it once we got into the actual missions. And there just seems like there's going to be a lot more ability and options when you're playing the game. You know, the time, the games that was timed. I mean, I can only imagine what else they're doing. I, again, can appreciate the trick-taking aspect of Lord of the Rings or Fellowship of the Rings, but at the heart of it, it's trick taking, and every game's going to feel like, well, it's the trick taking and trying to figure out who's winning what. So I am going to go with Bomb Busters for mechanism. Let's go over to Chris.
Yeah, I am going to make it a tie once again. This is a tough one for me because, I mean, hey, it's a trick-taking game, but I think that's what leans me in this way, in that, it's a trick-taking game, but yet it feels different. And they're able to take this relatively normal mechanism and make it different, and not only make it different for the game, but make it different from scenario to scenario. And again, there are things you'll discover as you're playing this game that truly do. It's not just you have different things that you're trying to accomplish, but you might have different ways that you have to accomplish that as well. So I'm going to go with Fellowship of the Rings for mechanisms. Once again, a 2-2 tie. We go to our fifth meeple, Dave, to break it.
All right, here we go.
We know what Dave picked all the way down.
What do you
Let's just
think?
be honest.
What do you think he
It's
picked?
Bomb Busters all the way down.
It is Bomb Busters. The mechanisms really go better with the theme. I like the mechanisms even better when it was timed. I mentioned that to you guys already. I like the pressure of working together without discussing any details, which is very hard to do when something seems obvious. But in hindsight, how you say it or when you can really reveal the other facts.
All right, so Bomb Busters again by tiebreaker wins 3-2 in mechanisms and takes an early 2-0 lead in the overall battle. We'll go to value for your time. Actually, I'm actually going to start this one primarily because I don't want to start the next one because I got to think about it some more. Value for your time for me, I'm going to go with Fellowship of the Rings again. Not that Bomb Busters takes that long, but there's a decent amount of setup for it. With Fellowship of the Rings, you can get right into a scenario, you whip it through a hand, and you either replay that hand or go to the next one. Nice and quick. but fun all the way. Fellowship of the Rings for me. I will kick it over to Pete.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris, on this. It's just when you sit down and you play, it just seems natural to play another hand and then play another hand. And as the scenarios roll out, you get that storyline. Again, it's kind of it leads you into it, but it just keeps you wanting to do a little bit more. So value for the time for me, I am going to go with Fellowship of the Ring. Let's go to Daniela this time.
Yeah, for every reason you guys just already mentioned, Fellowship of the Ring for this game. David.
Yeah, I'm going to make it a clean sweep on this one. The real reason is I just think that there are ways that I need to make Bomb Busters just faster to set up. I think if Bomb Busters was faster to set up, this would be a lot harder category, but just the way it's packaged currently, it just takes a while to set up each scenario.
All right, so a clean sweep, Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game wins value for your time 4-0. We go on to replayability. I'll kick it back to David.
Ooh, this one is tough. For me, though, I'm going to have to go with Bomb Busters on this one for replayability. I think that there is just so much to explore. You have all these boxes. I'm only up to like mission 20, and I'm like, how are they going to do different stuff all the way through 66? So, and every time I pick up one of those boxes, I shake it. There's pieces in there. I'm like, I want to open this box, but I don't want to open this box.
I want to open it with you.
Yeah, so I feel like there's just a lot to explore there, and I feel like I barely scratched the surface on that one. Kicking it over to Pete.
Yeah, I agree with you. Bomb Busters, again, for some of the other reasons that I talked about, the other mechanisms in that, it just seems like there's so much more options with it. The games, even though you're doing the same thing, they do feel like completely different scenarios versus playing, Fellowship of the Ring. Each scenario, again, we're trying, Frodo needs to get so many things and that. Yeah, there's new people introduced, but it doesn't seem to mix it up that much. Now, maybe later on in the game it does that, but I can just see more potential in Bomb Busters, so I'm going to go with that. Daniela, would you like to join in?
Yep, I'm joining in this one with Bomb Busters. Overall, Bomb Busters has something in it too that, again, once we got out of that training phase, once the missions started coming in, I was like, this is really, really cool. This is neat. I think when you could take this game and play it with multiple different people, every single time it's going to be a little bit differently, just because of how people think. Lord of the Rings, I don't know if when you get through the entire game, is it kind of done? Or can you take it out and you play random chapters?
There's a way to set up a deck.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, maybe that's a fix for my concern there. But overall, Bomb Busters for me. Chris.
All right. Well, my opinion is irrelevant, which is good because I was struggling here. And I think it was because I felt like I should go with Fellowship of the Rings, but really what my mind was telling me is it's Bomb Busters. From a standpoint of it's going to be potentially, with all those different scenarios, different every time you play it. Fellowship of the Ring, I think, for me is good because while it's different every time, it's also the same. It's that you're getting that same challenge. I'm going to start babbling if I keep going. Bomb Busters, 4-0 to take replayability. We go to the fun factor, and I'll start with Daniela.
All right, fun factor for me because of the interaction with everybody at the table and just the stress and, the way that Pete has been saying, it's just fun. We were talking about these things on the way in the car on the way home. I'm going to go with Bomb Busters because of just how you have to work really, really closely together. Lord of the Rings, you can talk in that game for sure, but it doesn't feel as cohesive as Bomb Busters. Chris.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go with Fellowship of the Ring just because when I'm playing it, I'm having more fun because that's more the kind of, it's not a deduction, but it's that sort of trick-taking puzzle I enjoy doing. There were a couple of things that did, again, I kept getting pet peeve after pet peeve on Bomb Busters, and that took a little bit away from the fun factor for me, even though, again, I'll sit down and play it anytime. But Fellowship of the Ring, for me, I will go to David.
Yeah, this one is another tight one for me. I can't believe how tight I feel. I just feel like these are both good games. You can't go wrong if you're deciding on one of them. The thing that pushed me over, though, for fun factor, I'm going to actually go with Bomb Busters with a caveat that if you are into trick-taking games, then I would lean toward the Fellowship. But if you are just trying to play games with players that maybe there's some new players, there's some inexperienced, there's experienced players. You can easily get bomb busters to the table. It's easy to explain the concepts, and it's a lot of fun. And you could also make fun of a lot of people in this game too when they blow up and you're like, how could you think that was the red wire? So, for all those reasons, I'm going to go with bomb busters on that one. Sending it over to Pete.
Yeah, this one was pretty easy for me too. I enjoyed Bomb Busters, just the intensity of it, the interaction with people, trying to figure out, who should I pick, whose wire should I try to cut. There's that interaction, as you guys know, I like in my games, and I just felt that more interaction than sitting there trying to figure out, I'm working with you guys, but I feel like I'm more engaged when I'm playing Bomb Busters. So fun factor for me, Bomb Busters all the way.
So Bomb Busters wins the fun factor 3-1, and with a score of 4-1, Bomb Busters blasts away the competition and wins today's Battle of the Funnest.
Well, folks, that brings us to the end of yet another episode of the Fifth Meeple Board Game Podcast. We hope you had a blast today. And if you'd like to get in touch, just email us at thefifthmeeple@gmail.com or reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, may all your wires be diffused. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Adios.
I don't want to say that again because it's science fiction, it's not fantasy.
All right, guys, I think I see Gandalf coming over that hill. What?
Is that what it is? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It says, you know what, guys? Okay.
Yeah. I agree with Pete on that. Sorry.
I don't think so. I think we covered everything on mine. Yeah. Ding, ding.
Ding.
Come on, ding dong.